we're gonna figure out what kind of train wreck this is gonna be.
Say something, Jazz.
Say something.
Something.
Yeah.
There he is.
There's the hijinks. Now we just need games and drinks.
We'll find out. We looks like we have drinks.
So it's that means has to mean it's time for Warhammered then.
It is time for Warhammer.
I'm excited.
This is
the whole week.
This is the Warhammered podcast brought to you by Second Pitch Beer Company.
Hey.
Coming you from the bowels of BattlePub Games.
Under the bowels.
The sub bowels.
The sub bowels.
Of the BattlePub Games studios. And we're here to infest your ear holes with what we think is good information.
Nah.
Because
at a very rudimentary level.
Yeah. Wave top.
Wave top. Use your goddamn trademarks.
Yeah.
Use your words.
You have keywords. You have to use them now.
You have to use them. You have catchphrase.
You have catchphrases. You're stuck with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have one segment that is actually factual, and then everything else we talk about, we sort of skimmed over, and then we're just gonna make you deal with it. So,
but to be fair, Big Jim did do research today.
He brought Cliff Notes.
I brought Cliff's Notes.
He printed it. He used a printer.
He's got a packet.
Yeah, he used a printer.
He did.
I assume your company from your work.
You can prove
taxpayer
nothing.
Yeah, that is not from your home printer.
No,
that
no.
is
can prove absolutely nothing.
Yeah. No, I 100% respect that.
Waste, fraud, and abuse isn't a thing.
Yeah. However, we have been getting some comments lately that I think are
Must be addressed.
yeah. Well, I think they're worth addressing.
Okay.
One of my favorite comments, and we've gotten it on several of the episodes now, is that people really appreciate that we're just random fucking dudes that kind of just discussing our hobby, and we're not like some super dry
Meta.
meta, just the facts kind of approach to this. So
There's nothing.
Just the facts, man.
There's a place for all that. It's just not here.
It's just not here. Yeah. If you want just the facts, there are a lot of podcasts.
There's a lot of them out there that
you're
are going to talk about
great.
gameplay in a specific region, and
Yeah.
and we're not those people. So we appreciate it. We're glad that our wave top level analysis of the lore is
dumb shit
something
is
you can
good.
dig. The other question that we've been getting asked is, how do you send us beverages?
Adult beverages.
Yeah. You can
if you
send
send
them...
me a fucking Dr. Pepper through the mail, fuck you, bro.
Gross.
Oh God, you know how awful that would be.
That would be terrible.
You can send it to the store. So BattlePub Games, you can go to battlepub.com and find our address, or you can Google BattlePub Games. The studio we were recording in is literally attached to the game store. Our delivery people obviously only come during business hours. There's always somebody here to sign for it, blah, 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 blah. We even had some people ask whether or not they could send like their like local breweries.
I would love
stuff.
that.
And that would be
that.
That would be fucking awesome. And your local booze. I guess there's some places that have regional booze and stuff. We drink that too. We are like,
and also, I know maybe they kind of overlap, but homebrew. If you'd make your homebrew and stuff like that, and want to bring it in, like I'm a certified judge, I'll judge your homebrew on air.
I'll just judge you.
Yeah,
so
we'll do that. Like I'll tell you what you need to do.
It could be brutal.
It could be brutal.
It's gonna be honest.
No. If it is your homebrew and you want feedback, I will give you constructive, good feedback.
I'll just shit on you.
Yeah. But if it's like your local like brewery, I will
shit on them too.
Exactly what I think about it.
We're equal opportunity shit talkers.
Yeah.
If you want to send us bourbon, absolutely.
And you can also send bourbon all day.
Yeah.
100%.
I like gin
I'll drink
too.
that.
If you have gin or rum.
A local gin?
A local gin. Fucking
that'd be
let's
dope.
do it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I'll have a martini while we do this.
I don't really like gin.
You wear a fucking robe.
But I'm here for you.
If I can, yeah.
Cigarette lighter holder.
One of those big extended ones.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time.
You're like fucking John Barrymore.
Yeah, I'll come over here.
Here for it.
All you little.
Just like have like the girl from Ipanema. Do.
Just some of that soft luau music.
Yeah,
playing
exactly.
In the background,
Just
tiki bar
click
style.
a button and the fire lights up.
That'd be so dope. I'm here for
this
it.
This thing fucking lights up. Oh shit!
Don't say that. First of all, don't even mention that thing.
Freaks me the fuck out. I'm serious with you.
It scares me.
It's so beautiful though.
It's badass.
So beautiful.
It's also super expensive.
Yeah.
And
she's getting moved.
We're
building a case for her.
Okay.
So she has her own glass case that she's going to go
fantastic.
in. So
because I don't trust this thing.
I think I'm actually thinking about putting her in that corner.
That'd be great.
In a glass case, so So she's just looming.
Nothing will happen over there.
So she's just looming in the back.
Mhm.
But that's Phyllis, and she's not mine. She's actually a customer of ours. She stores her here.
And for those using it as an auditory medium, this is a ginormous warlord
It's
titan.
a warlord titan. It's a professionally painted Forge World warlord titan. If you don't know what that is, you can go look it up. It's about a 2 foot tall miniature.
Yeah.
So if that gives you the idea of just how
Price tag of what about her?
between the paint job and the model, there's probably about $7,000 sitting there. So they're about as expensive as it gets when it comes to this game.
You can have this or a Volvo.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But the Forge World Warlord Titan is the most expensive official model you can buy.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so super dope though, super dope. Anyways, so I thought we should address some of those comments because people have been very good about commenting on our stuff.
Love it. Love it.
So we fucking appreciate you. However, that brings us very politely into the only factual part of the show, Jim's Beer Corner.
Yeah.
There's the music.
Dude. You gotta give this poor guy something.
Yeah, do something here, guys.
So today we have a limited edition second pitch beer that we're drinking.
This is a Czech style Pilsner. It is called the Duke of Bohemia. We are only submitting it to or giving it out to about 20 accounts that we have. This is pretty much what we call, which one of them is BattlePub. Yeah. You're the only one that has glass or has plastic cups that is getting this.
I'm classy.
Yeah, because you're a classy bitch, yo.
Yo.
So let's talk about what this is. So it's a Czech style lager. Czech style lagers are a little bit different from German lagers. They have a lot more hops to them, and they use a very specific type of hop, which is called Saz hops. Saz or Saz. And what makes this really cool? S-A-A-Z.
Double A.
Mhm.
Getting fancy with it.
Yeah.
Oh, the Czech.
Yeah, it's Czech.
All right, so to me, that's rough.
That's rough.
That's rough.
So it's a lot of hop for in
It
this,
is, okay,
considering that it's a lager.
Yeah.
A lot of people see a color like this, a very clear beer.
You want
very
this
similar
cold?
to
Do you
that.
want this warm? How do you want this?
You want this cold.
Do you?
Yeah, you're gonna
okay.
want this cold.
Yeah, okay.
So you're going to want this at about, 40 degrees, 35, 45 degrees. And it's just a fantastic beer. Good body on it, good head retention.
Pretty.
Good, pretty beer.
What is that flavor?
That is the Saz hops coming through. I know
Why
exactly
do I
what you're doing.
recognize it?
I don't know, because you're a man of class and sophistication.
Well, you reached deep for that one, huh? Like that
Did,
was
yeah.
Jesus.
I can't narrow down anything.
It's
You're getting a lot.
It is
You're
a
getting
very unique flavor.
It is a very unique flavor. You're getting on the malt side, you're getting a lot of water cracker, white bread crust. The hops though are going to be really floral, almost like a kind of a potpourri kind of flavor to it.
Yeah. It's the
You
smell,
can definitely smell it.
Mhm.
Like on the nose, it is very floral.
Yeah.
But not like I don't know. Potpourri is almost too strong. It's,
Yeah.
It's
It's like fresh wildflower kind of smell to it.
No, yeah. It's got like a very
Mhm.
This is gonna sound bougie as shit, but
Do
it
it.
very much does have like a meadow scent to it.
Yeah,
Like
and that's what it's supposed to have.
yeah.
Yeah. And this beer is a passion
It smells
project.
like a sunny day.
It smells like
In
joy.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. Czech Republic. Czechoslovakia does not exist anymore, sir.
Well,
So this is actually a pet
maybe not
project
Slovak part,
of
the Czech part, yeah, whatever.
this is actually a pet project of our QC manager, Paige Martin, the great Paige Martin. She is like a fanatic about this.
We'll have her on the show at some point.
Yeah, we'll have her on the show. And this is like her thing. She spends like all year researching and making this beer.
God, that flavor is just
It's good.
it's one off, man. Like
It's definitely different.
and that you're saying that's that Saz hops.
Mhm.
Like is it like that hops is just such a unique flavor.
It
that
is
just
such a
changes
it's
the
a noble
profile of it
hop.
like
Yeah,
that?
it's really really great. One of the cool things, and just I'll leave you with like one little tidbit about Saz hops and where we got the name. The Duke of Bohemia used to be the ruler of the Czech Republic, or the Bohemia back in the day. It's called the Kingdom of Bohemia, and it was actually against the law for anyone to take those hops outside of the country, punishable by death.
Damn.
So this was like a very serious thing with these hops. Like that's like their thing. They love it. So yeah, it's a fantastic beer. Light, crisp, good hot weather
I
beer.
was gonna say it is sharp. Like
Yeah.
It's sharp.
Yeah,
Sharp is
real
a good way to
crisp.
put it.
Yeah,
it's
sharp.
good, but it's sharp.
It is
like
sharp,
it's
yeah.
like when it hits your tongue, That is not like the flavor will roll on. It's just like, nope.
It hits you.
Yeah.
It slaps you around. It lets you know it's there.
So
Fantastic beer. We're really proud of it. And it is going to be at several local bars and restaurants here in San Antonio.
yeah, I'm looking forward to having it on draft.
Mhm.
It's gonna be good.
It's going to be great.
Good.
And then we can also, if you go down to the brewery, we have it on draft at the brewery, but we also do it a very traditional way of pouring, which is on the side pull. One of those old side pull ones. So we have that. So it's a lot of fun.
I don't have that.
No, you don't have that.
I don't.
You're not cool enough.
Nope.
Yeah, we got it from the Czech Republic directly.
Not doing that.
Nope.
Hard pass.
Yep. So that's the beer corner. Bum, bum, bum.
Fucking A.
So that segues us into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so
Going down memory lane.
we're gonna do a little a retrospective
Yes.
today, if you will. So we've been talking a lot lately about RPGs, specifically some of the fallout with
Wizards of the West Coast.
Wizards of the Coast
Yeah.
essentially deciding that they hated their IP and just seeing if they could shoot it in the face, which is the whole D&D debacle. So we decided that with all of that, we would take a look at some of the RPGs kind of starting in like the golden age, which in my opinion is like late 80s, early 90s was kind of the golden
Sure.
age of RPGs. Professionalism right
I
there.
know, right?
That is. That was Beer Jim's phone.
Sorry.
We're just going to go ahead
Sorry.
and call him out
Sorry.
on that right now.
Sorry. That was my bad.
But I think the late 80s, early 90s was kind of the golden age of RPGs. After that, when 3.5 kind of came along, that kind of shut the door on a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Some of the bigger titles kind of held on, but really D&D started to come into its own. And then you had RPGs just kind of stopped for a while. And then about 10 years ago, we saw a huge resurgence.
Sure.
And then they started really getting into pop culture and stuff was
What
coming
about,
out.
so 3.5 is about what year?
3.5, I think, was like 98, 99. It was into the 90s.
So Y2K.
Yeah, and it kind of held on. But what the reason RPGs, in my opinion, really started to fall off is that in that era, you're starting to talk about home computers really started
The
to make
rise of
leaps and
computer
bounds
games,
forwards.
yeah.
And so RPGs went very, very digital.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of the Diablo titles. You
Or
gotta keep in
IPs
mind.
segued into you had the same kind of role
Yeah.
players, but they went on
And then
Ultima Online, some of those things.
yeah,
Mist.
well, EverQuest.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
after
EverQuest, yeah.
EverQuest, we had. I mean, WoW came out in 2004. That was World of
Oh,
Warcraft.
yeah.
And a lot of the tabletop guys just went to that because it was scratching the itch. And
Yep.
it was like
Yeah,
you leveled up, you got gear, you had a group, you went on adventures, you went and dived dungeons, like,
Yep.
And then you could turn it off and leave.
and then and if your party didn't show up, you could still play. So
Guys, D&D V 3.5
yep.
came out in 2003.
Okay, so
That's
03,
Miss
so it was a little
Producer.
bit later.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm thinking 3rd edition.
Fact check, Caitlin.
So yeah, that lovely voice that you heard is our producer, Caitlin, who is now mic'd up, and she's going to be able to chime in when we're idiots
Yeah.
and fix our stuff. So
I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but anyway.
it's going to be a great thing
Okay.
because the audience can go like, they really don't know what the fuck they're talking about, do they?
Yeah,
Wow, you
So,
nailed
I
that.
like- I'm like the Wizard of Oz. You
Yeah, dude,
can't
pay no
see
attention to
me,
the
but
woman
you
behind
can
the
hear
curtain.
me.
So yeah, so I guess 3 would have been late 90s and 3.5 would have been early.
So that makes
2000s.
100% with WoW coming out when it did. And
Yeah,
then
and
it
so
was just-
and then after that, a lot of companies changed hands. A lot of systems started trying to take IPs
yeah.
and change stuff around. And so, but anyways, it really did lead to the rise where you had 2 big boys on the top,
Mhm.
and that was D&D and Pathfinder. So, and Pathfinder, Paizo, the people that own them, it's literally without D&D there is no Paizo, because D&D made 4E. But everybody loved 3.5. Nobody liked 4E. So Paizo made a 3.5 OGL title called Pathfinder
Mm.
that everybody loved because it was 3.5. And it blew up this whole company. And Paizo is now the number 2.
Behind D&D. Or behind...
Behind D&D for a long time. I'd be interesting to see what the sales numbers look like now.
Mhm.
Because in talking to Paizo, I know they sold 8 months worth of books in 2 weeks.
Jesus.
When the OGL fiasco happened. So I'd be
So
interested to
a
see
lot of
what
people
a
switched
lot of
over
people
to
peeled
them.
off. So yeah. So anyways, we were talking about all this kind of stuff, and we're finishing up. Big Jim and I are in a D&D campaign together.
Right.
Which is we're trying to close that up, and we're shifting to a system from our younger days called Riffs.
You guys have talked about this one, and it seems like just like a hallucinogen fever dream.
So there's a mythology to it. It wasn't just scattershot kind of game, but so the guy who originated the game, it's been around since I guess 90. And he'd been in the industry for a while.
Mm.
And so they had TMNT. He had the contract for Robotech.
Mm.
So they got the IP from Harmony Gold, and they were able to do the Robotech. So there was the Robotech books, and then so you had all this stuff. So people understood kind of how to play the games and stuff like that. And he was getting all these different ideas, and then eventually they came out with.
And this
Riffs.
is a publisher called Palladium Books.
Games. Yeah.
Okay.
And Palladium's a huge publisher, so they came up with this idea called Riffs, and essentially what it was a Riffs. You ever seen the movie Heavy Metal?
Yeah, you told me it's like heavy metal and.
Okay, so if you take the movie / magazine Heavy Metal, and I don't care which Heavy Metal, Heavy Metal 2000, any of the heavy metal titles,
right?
Take that and take an RPG, so dice and pen and paper, something you play on a table, and they fuck and then have a baby. That's Riffs. Like Riffs is it's a generalized rule set, and then they took kind of a sampling of every genre out there,
right,
and trimmed off some stuff so that it would all fit together and made it. And the concept is it takes place on Earth.
Cool.
And the concept is there's kind of this cataclysmic event, and these rifts start tearing open in reality, allowing other mythos to start pouring into our world.
So you get elves and dwarfs.
Cool.
You get aliens. You get the Cthulhu mythos because he was big into that. The countries rise and fall. There's no really United States. You've got
you have the coalition now, which is based outside of Chicago.
Okay. Texas. Some of the states still exist and they're in a thing. You've got vampires
which control everything from Mexico south.
And you've got gargoyles, which are taking over all of Europe, so you can do missions there and kind of get stuff.
Yeah, Japan got its own thing. The rest of Asia got its own thing.
That sounds super cool.
And they released books for all of it, so you can travel around and you can change these regions.
Your mission can go to different places.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's like who wants to go fight some gargoyles?
So when the cataclysm happens, it took place after we'd sort of conquered the solar system. So you've got stuff off planet if you wanted to do, and they release books for that kind of stuff. So you got all this stuff, mutants and everything.
But the other thing that happened during the cataclysm is that these rifts open up. Well, it injects magic into the world too.
So there's magic as well.
So and there's psychic abilities, and so like you could be a druid with a pet Tyrannosaurus Rex. You can also be a 10-foot tall, up-armored, like super soldier with a cannon mounted to your shoulder, and you've got to bolt yourself to the earth before you fire a shot, or you get flung backwards. Like,
and it can shatter fucking like it. If any of your
10 miles.
So it's anything you can think of.
Yes, it is literally imagination unfettered, and there's enough rules and guidelines to make it playable. But it's still open world enough to where literally the more batshit that you want to go with it, the more batshit the game becomes. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, it sounds like just a great, like with these riffs, it's like a great way of just bringing like every good idea from everybody else.
And so it's literally one of those like, hey, are you really into like something like the Terminator IP, where you just like the idea that like mankind's on its back foot and there's all of these killer robots that are coming? Guess what's in riffs? Yeah, like, do you want to be a knight with, sword and board and the whole 9 yards and da-da-da-da-da?
They got guys that do that.
Guess what's in Rift? So, like, you a big Gundam fan? Guess what's in Rift?
Okay, so my question is, like, if you're doing a campaign and you're going in, can you, like, one time fight, like, a knight on horseback and then, like, you turn a corner and all of a sudden there's like, oh, there's a ginormous Gundam now we have to go after.
You just described Rifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite possibly, depending on how your group is set up too, like whether you can even deal with something like that. So you got to have somebody who's like a psionist, or somebody who's a mage. Maybe you got a dwarf that fucking does whatever a dwarf does in the thing. You got to have, they call a glitter boy. That's the guy with the big gun. Okay. Then you've got other guys that take a shit ton of drugs.
The
to be able
walking
to
tank.
stuff-
His name is Glitter. The class is called a Glitter Boy.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Um,
Big fan.
Yeah, and then you have like the juicers,
yeah.
who are, it's essentially anabolics. It's anabolics on anabolics. So like you know Bane from Batman?
Yeah.
Hits
of
the
course.
button and
Yeah.
he fucking
Yeah.
becomes all super powered because the juice.
Yeah.
So juicers do that, but the number one thing that the juice does is it makes you process things so quickly and you're able to respond so fast that the rest of the world looks like it slows down.
Okay.
So
yeah.
you become almost untouchable because you can respond
But
to
it
things.
kills your, it's slowly killing you.
And if you
Cool.
overuse it,
Okay.
you can literally just black out in the middle
Slowly-
of combat
okay,
and just
it is
slam into the
killing you.
dirt. Like,
It is killing
Nice.
you. So that character doesn't have a long lifespan.
right.
kind
Like
of thing.
you become super powerful,
Yeah.
but you're poisoning yourself while you do it.
Yeah.
So like you can have like a druid and a glitter boy and like a guy with a shield and sword all hanging out.
100%.
Yeah,
That could
Just
be
be
a
like, that's
party.
my group.
Yep.
We're
Yeah.
doing this, guys.
There's giant armor suits that you can get. I'm blanking on the name right now.
I don't know.
There's
There's talking dogs.
the dog boys.
There's dog boys.
Dog boys.
Yep.
They were a government experiment, so
Yep.
they're all soldiers. They're all
Yep.
like infantry soldiers, and they're called dog boys. And they literally took humans and they spliced them with dog DNA, and they're the new soldiers. They're called
So
dog
Space
boys.
Wolves. Space Wolves are there. Cool.
But there's these huge fucking giant mecha, and it takes 5 people to pilot them. So you have like the pilot, the assistant pilot, and gunner, the nav guy, and da da da. It's fucking Voltron. So you're just piloting a Voltron. Like,
This guy was just like, what do I love?
yeah, it's everything. It's
Well,
literally
he had this. So they had the IP for both, like Robotech, and then they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. So he took a lot of that because he could get the gameplay to work, and then he just threw it into this game. It got so popular. I mean, they would produce the books, so every region had a book. But it got so popular they were going to do computer games. They were going to do a movie. So
Yeah.
Jerry
Wow.
Bruckheimer for a while had the rights to the movie. They were trying to figure it out how to make this movie for a
And
long
this is
time.
like mid 90s.
So this is a 90s all the way up until the early 2000s. They got into some financial issues. There was some embezzlement in the company. They lost a bunch of money. He's done Kickstarters. The Kickstarter didn't quite work
well,
out.
and then Rifts got picked up by Savage World for a little bit. So Rifts was functioning on the Savage World system,
There was a
but
bunch
it
of-
wasn't
yeah,
good.
there's-
And then
yeah.
Palladium got it back,
Back.
and
Yeah.
now Palladium has essentially gone. We had this really good thing, and it got too polluted and fucked up. So Palladium just said fuck it and just reprinted Rifts.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like an updated Rifts. I mean
Just-
they took the original book and they released a 30th anniversary.
And
They
were like,
did this
"We're
in
starting here, guys."
2020. It's just now kind of coming to shelves because everything got delayed. But they released a 30th anniversary of it, and it is literally they took the original book and they just printed it again.
That's awesome.
And they
I
didn't even
that.
like update the font, like so it still looks like it was printed on a dot matrix printer. Like it's all the still the. And it's all like the sketch art and like everything. And then in the back is like a 30 or 40 page like paper museum of like the history of Rifts in the back of that book.
That's awesome.
But it's an app, and really over the 30 years the rules haven't changed
No, and he did it
much
pretty
because
good.
they're loose enough
Yep.
Yeah.
that you can really kind of do what you want.
What
with
you need
it.
with this game, unlike some of the games, you need a really good GM. You got to have a guy that's got a really good idea about.
And a GM
what-
is like the dungeon master,
the
I
dungeon
assume.
master.
Yeah, okay.
You got to have
Yeah.
a guy who's got a really solid campaign because there's so much stuff that you're like, oh, squirrel, and you're like, hey, let's go to Japan. Like, no, we're gonna
Yeah,
go do.
you've got to have a game master that one knows how to pivot
hmm
because it can be that whole like, oh, squirrel, and you go do this thing, and he's got to know how to go like, okay, my players want to chase the squirrel. How do I loop this back to where they need to be?
hmm
And
And
so
you need a balanced party too, because you could come up against some stuff that you just can't handle.
Yeah.
this is one of those games that you've got to know that it's okay just to run away.
Yeah.
And where you just go like, yeah,
Like,
nope,
like
nope.
a friggin'
Big
Cthulhu
ol'
monster comes up out of the sea, which that's a thing.
Yep.
Like you got to be like, oh, I'm done.
Well, because like
Yeah.
Atlantis is back.
Yeah.
By the way, it's in the Gulf of Mexico.
And
If
they're
you
not
wanted to know where
friendly at
Atlantis
all.
was, it's in the Gulf.
They
of
have like
Mexico.
gladiatorial fighting with like humans, so it's like not a good thing.
Okay, so
No.
it's not Atlantis isn't
No.
this
Yeah,
utopia.
and like yeah, the U.S. is gone. The coalition exists outside of Chi-Town because Chicago's gone too.
And they call it Chi-Town?
It's just called Chi-Town now.
That's funny.
That's where the seat of this loose confederation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
government. Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal game. Hasn't really changed much.
No.
That would
It's
be a
back,
fun one to play.
and
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
getting ready to start a campaign.
Yep.
We
Don't tell me about that stuff. You know I can't do it.
Fuck. We play right after the show
No.
I know, but then I got mouths to feed, man.
on a Thursday night.
Not really.
So you got Rifts, okay? So that was one game.
Yeah, one of my personal favorites.
There's Shadowrun.
Oh,
Okay.
Shadowrun. I played
I'm
Shadowrun.
100% in on Rifts. Let's see Shadowrun now.
So Shadowrun came out a year prior. Shadowrun was. You seen the movie Bright with?
Yes, I love that
So-
fucking movie. I am
Okay,
that's the closest
unapologetically
you're
loving
probably
that.
gonna get.
World is very close to that.
Yeah, it's very close.
Like
It was,
Modern World.
They didn't have the
but
IP,
add in-
otherwise it would have been. So you get the So it's the Modern World. It takes place in the So it's like 2070, 2080. They updated it as the kind of more.
So
editions came out.
So keep in mind, this came out in '89. It's now in 6th edition.
Yeah.
So they have been, but it hasn't been a reboot. It's been an evolution to
Yeah.
kind of push it into near future.
Yeah.
It's always in near
It's
future.
always near future.
It's very
So-
William Gibson, Technomancer.
Yeah, and
kind
kind of Blade Runner-y.
It's
Okay.
So that's that world with magic comes back. So magic comes back. Dragons come back. So they always existed. People turn into elves and dwarves initially when the first kind of like awakening happened.
Yeah.
And then from there, they have kids or whatever, or some just appear. Then you get a subsection. You get like ogres and all that
All that
stuff.
kind of stuff
People
just
turn
kinda-
into those things, or they start just happen. They're
Okay,
starting
so-
around.
Now, you ready for the mind-blowing part?
I'll
Okay, so you
always
know the movie Bright.
love the movie Bright.
Okay, so Bright is kind of a near future. Magic is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it feels
kind
like
of
it's like
thing,
10,
right?
10 years in the
Okay,
future.
so now
Yeah.
take that,
Okay.
but make it an Ocean's 11 movie,
Because that's generally what it
and
is.
that's Shadowrun. So
You
Shadowrun
have
is you have a crew, and your crew is going. You are not heroes. You are
thieves.
you
for
are
most of the
thieves.
part, yeah.
You are
Mercenaries
you
and
are
thieves.
going to pull jobs.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you're getting hired by syndicates or corporations or whatever
There's
to
no
go.
real governments. Like it's the
Yeah.
mega corporations.
It's all
So
mega
Blade,
corps.
So Blade Runner. So take
Right.
that like the Blade
Yeah.
Runner and Bright, and
Like
that's
the
kind of what
Wyland
you get.
Corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, you get that kind of stuff. Dragons are super powerful. There are dragons that run companies. That's how like
Yeah, we're not talking the
important.
big giant winged lizard things. We're
Yeah.
talking
Okay.
dragonkin is more of what I would
Yeah.
call them.
So dragon
there
looking
are
guys.
though, but there are massive dragons.
there are the
Like,
massive
yeah,
dragons.
there are
Well, they can
massive-
shapeshift.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah, but they
Whatever.
exist,
Just
and
throw
they're
that in there.
probably the most powerful things. You don't get to play those,
Hmm.
and there's only certain players. You can play humans, or some mutants, or so you can play elves and dwarves to an extent. You
but
can
for the
play
most
ogres,
part,
but
it's a heist.
yeah,
It's a heist game.
That's
So
fun.
the crew that what you're always doing is you're
Yep.
you're pulling jobs. So
Yeah.
your team,
yeah.
your crew, your whatever you are, whether it's mutants or humans or whatever, you're going. And so the game progresses with, in the beginning, maybe it's just a quick smash and grab and you got to fight your way out.
Yeah.
But as you level up and keep pushing, you can get a hideout and you can get a ship. You can do all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it pushes kind
That's
of how
great.
hard the job is that you can pull off.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is like take Bright,
Yeah.
but make it an Ocean's 11 movie.
yeah.
And
God, I would
Yeah,
love-
again,
kind of where
Very
Shadowrun's
GM
at.
dependent because you can't just go around shooting fucking people.
Nope,
Because
it doesn't work.
There,
Because
there are rules and there are laws.
There's
Like,
laws, and
there-
you're
there
not
are-
super powerful.
yeah, because there's cops and all that
there's
kind of
countries.
stuff. So.
The countries exist. Some are more powerful than others, but generally speaking, they're beholden to the mega
They're
corporations. who always
autocracy-
want you to
autocracy.
be
Yeah,
always do
and
the
so
right
and the
thing.
way
Yeah.
that they kind of break that up is that the different books that come out for Shadowrun, a lot of them will be city specific.
Okay.
So like you'll have like PNW or the Pacific Northwest,
Mhm.
but it'll be like Shadowrun Seattle, and so but Seattle will be the megacorp hub, and then that owns like
So
the
Starbucks.
that owns like the PNW.
Yeah.
So it'd be like Starbucks is now,
Like,
but
yeah.
it's more than just Starbucks and
It's-
whatever.
it's-
Like the Amer-
the Federation of Starbucks.
Indians hold
Right.
a huge sway. Like the American Indian holds like the territory and stuff like that. They've got their own thing.
So and they'll make all these
Aztecs,
books that do it. So
the elves own like Oregon, so they've got their own homeland that's elf
That
specific.
tracks. Yeah.
You don't want to fuck with them. Like you can't. I mean, so they have all this stuff. And the books goes into a lot of detail how everything happened. So it's not just like this is kind of what happened. You get
it's got
pages of a good
100%. It's got a really good fleshed out lore of
backstories,
how the world got there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because essentially they all start with, okay, all the history you know.
Yeah.
That still exists. We don't need to relearn history.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's now like, so essentially everything in the lore starts with like, everything you know happened exactly what happened up till now. And then tomorrow, some shit got weird. And
People are having kids that are elves. People are having dwarves.
Yeah, so there's this injection that comes in, and that shifts everything.
Yeah, that just fucks up
and they
the
also
world.
say like magic always existed. So the dragons didn't just appear, like they were asleep kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of that. So it's kind of like Bright. And when Bright came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is Shadowrun." They just couldn't call it Shadowrun.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's Shadowrun from like the cop perspective.
Right.
Bright is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bright is like Shadowrun, but from the cop.
Such an underrated movie.
From the cop perspective, well, some of it was it could have been a really cool story, and it got a little buried in some of the.
Yeah.
Almost too. It was small. Like
It was
there wasn't a lot of
really
word
tiny, and so you didn't learn enough about the world.
Yeah.
And as a first outing, you should have made your point with it. Maybe the second one or third one, and the first one should have just been like, "Hey, let's introduce this really fucking cool world."
Yeah.
Then we'll give it some depth. We'll give it some more depth later.
Yeah.
And they try to just go like straight into the deep end of like, we're gonna put emotion in it, and it's like, okay, it's elves and wands and shit. Like, let's pump our brakes. Like, let's talk about what we're getting into.
So that's kind of what. But
Alright.
it's definitely Blade Runner. It's very William Gibson.
And this is they still put out books. They
dude,
still
I've
do
got it on
everything.
the shelf right now.
Yeah, they still put out books. It's like
tons of novels.
Sixth
came out
edition
for it.
just came out
Yeah.
like last year. I
Oh,
think
they have novels about it.
Yeah.
2019.
I might have to.
Sixth
start
edition was
reading that.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
always
no,
looking
maybe
for
the new
some good
city
stuff.
books came out last year, like Seattle and.
Maybe.
When did the night books or whatever come out?
It's cyberpunk with magic.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm in.
So it's cool.
There's 50 novels.
50 novels.
Yeah.
So they've written a couple. Got it.
Yeah, there's one or two.
And the
books.
Is there,
newest edition came out last year.
Yeah, the newest edition was last year, right? That's all the Seattle nightlife or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're dope looking.
I'm awesome.
Really cool system with the play boards too on like power, like your relationships with different companies matter like hugely in that game. And so they made like a tracker where you like have these sliders that control like your current relationship levels, which determines like what kind of response you'll get in certain areas and stuff.
How close are you to the Starbucks Corp?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like,
no,
it's a big
I got a card.
thing.
I got a card. It's good.
Yeah, so it's like I know a guy. That's why I say it's very Ocean's 11, where they're like, we can't party here, but if we call this dude,
we can do.
Then we can pull some shit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Very, very relationship driven.
I like it. That's a fun game. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was fun. And it was also one of the first books that I like. It was completely well done. I think that was like the second game I played.
I was about to say, don't you have some old Shadowrun books sitting around?
The original Shadowrun.
Yeah.
It's still in like phenomenal shape.
Nice.
So, which segues back to another game, Gamma World, which was from TSR.
Yes. So I think it's important that we talk about TSR and what TSR is, so that you can understand why, if it's from TSR, we care. Okay. So TSR originally is Tactical Studies Research is actually what TSR stands for. That is TSR, which you see up there.
Yeah, which is the Dungeons and Dragons originals.
Yes, but they did not start with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
They started with tabletop wargaming.
Yeah, like hardcore math-driven wargaming.
Yes, and like
wasn't a lot of fun, and it definitely wasn't role playing.
It wasn't role playing, and it was a lot of charts and graphs and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it was all about historical, either at the time modern historical, so it would be like in the 70s when they did Tactics and Tactics 2, which was tank warfare. They had a modern one, and it was like the T-76 was like the most modern tank in that game, I think, or something like that. So it's interesting because they have a rule book for modern, and it's like old. But the modern, like the tank came out in like the 60s. So but a lot of their stuff was medieval warfare, like 6mm historical Napoleonic stuff. And then they brought in a little dude named Gary Gygax. to help write the personnel rules for all of these tank games.
And he was the only guy that they could get to actually write this stuff because he didn't have a whole lot going on. He was an insurance salesman or some shit.
Yeah.
So he came in and they were like, hey, if you help us out, and he was like, hey, but I got this idea for this other thing. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. You write this and we'll make your pamphlet. Like, let's do this.
Fuck it.
And that's where D&D came from. He was also involved with a game, a miniatures war game, which he was kind of the title guy on, called Chainmail. And Chainmail was a miniatures game. So that was a miniatures-based skirmish game called Chainmail that still had like wizards and elves and whatever, but it was a medieval combat miniatures game, and it was called Chainmail. And it's probably the true predecessor to D&D.
Okay.
So a lot of the mechanics in Chainmail you can recognize in D&D, but D&D had far more role-playing and less strategy. So D&D was the first step away from tactical concept.
Okay.
So a company called TSR, Tactical Studies Research, Chainmail was a tactical game. Everything else is a tactical game. When you started getting into role playing, it's far less tactical. It's all about storytelling.
Yeah.
Right? So Chainmail was tactical, had his name on it, and that kind of allowed him to do D&D. So
and there's a lot to it, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot to
There's
that.
a lot. But that is
Of course, but
that is
that's
a
a good-
wave top covering of
But
It is
that's
perfect for this
pretty
podcast.
factual as
But-
far as how certain things happen.
So TSR though was originally, it was just 3 stacks of letters, TSR, and it said Tactical Studies Research. And then all of a sudden they started like including a little wizard that was next to it, and then that little wizard went away, and the TSR thing started changing, and there was a dragon that got involved in TSR
Right.
because D&D got so popular that they were like, all right, we got to distance ourselves from this Tactical Studies Research title of like, we make factual recreation historical games to we're making all this fucking money with this fantasy stuff.
Right.
We've got to get more fantasy. So they're the D&D people. Well, what ended up happening is that when TSR became the D&D people, they just printed money. So when they wanted to make a new game, as long as that cover said TSR on it,
People bought it.
Yeah.
you were buying it. And so TSR is where like Dragonlance came from and where Gamma World comes
which
in.
was a mutant game. So basically, it's an alternate, history one far in the future, and you basically everybody's a mutant in some capacity.
Okay.
And the cover was this guy. I remember seeing it in Dragon Mag, like the early Dragon magazines, and there's this big fur covered. It almost looks like a giant rat with like a cybernetic helmet and like cybernetic paws. And this dude's like riding it. And that was like the cover, and they were pushing this Gamma World game. And it looked fucking cool. Never played it because we just didn't, because it's sci-fi and wasn't like really my thing. But it is like if you can find the original books, it's friggin' cool.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And so
With the same
by
basic
mutant,
rules
we're
that
not
D&D.
talking we're not talking X-Men where like you can control the weather and shit.
Yeah.
We're talking like
There was 2 nuclear
Like-
wars.
like, yeah,
Not one
yeah.
nuclear war.
Nuclear
There were 2
mutants,
nuclear
so
yeah.
the
wars.
gamma is coming from like as in radiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's been just blasted at this
Yeah.
point, right?
Fucked.
And so the whole idea is that this radiation has gone out and has now changed the genetic code. So it's like, and it plays on the whole like, all mammals are like only like 2 or 3% DNA wise different from each other. Like there's very, very tiny things.
Yeah.
So if you start mutating that DNA,
Then maybe you
it
turn
doesn't
into...
take much for like giant rat guy or
Yeah.
like, or
Yeah.
now you just have a giant rat that could now be a horse instead of
Right.
a rat.
Right.
Or maybe you're born with, ridiculous strength, or you're so you're a mutant, but not mutant to the point of,
Powers.
yeah,
You didn't really have-
it's where they don't make sense.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have to be some sort of genetic mutation where it's like you could heal super quick.
Yeah.
Sure. Like you just have a hyperactive system.
Yeah.
You're super strong. Like you don't have to sleep. Like
Yeah.
there's shit
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
So, but Gamma World, I'm sure you probably have cliff notes on it. I personally have never played Gamma World.
'Cause
That's
it's
one that
an
I don't have.
old- It's just
It's
an
old and
yeah.
it wasn't it kind of died off before I really started getting into gaming.
Yeah. They kept publishing Gamma World. So Gamma World, the last publishing 7th edition came out in 2010. So
Okay.
they've kind of continued. It was for like so you had 78, 83, 86, 92, and then it resurged 2000, 2003, and then 2010. Which you can kind of see how, the resurgence of different.
Yeah.
certain things
Everyone's
come
bringing
back.
back their old shit.
Yeah, these guys are starting to bring back their old shit. But the art that showed up at Dragon Mag, it looked cool. It looked cool, but you can only play. How many games can you play?
Yeah.
Right. So that was one of them.
Only
I was
people
like,
have
"Man, we
so
should-"
much bandwidth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it looked cool as hell.
Yeah.
So there was Gamma World. So this is where we're just going through.
Going through everything.
These different ones. Another one that I think we played a couple of times and has now come back again.
You're making me miss fucking Dragon Magazine.
I love Dragon Magazine. I had tons of them. I wish they were worth something because I finally got rid of them all.
Really?
And I
They
started
weren't worth
buying them
anything?
again because we started playing D&D again. But I had a ton of them because there was always good shit in them, and there was the ads, and they were a huge magazine. And then also the other thing, Dragon Magazine too, they would put out a class that you could be like, well, if you had the Dragon Magazine, be like, I can play this because here's all the rules. Like, I don't care, it's not in a book. Fuck you, I'm playing this.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, and there would be like little mini one shots
Yeah.
and monsters and like
Oh,
all
that's
this
You're
kind
like,
of
oh, this
stuff.
is
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
a cool
pretty fucking
monster.
great.
Like, let's use it, whatever. So there's another game, Twilight 2000. So Twilight 2000,
Which I sell.
Yeah,
It is
which-
now
'cause
it
it's
is now
back.
made by
Is it-
a company called Free League Publishing.
And it was a military game, so it's
Oh, so it's not our Twilight. It's
No,
not
it's-
Jazz's
it's-
and I's
it's-
Twilight.
No, it's not. No, our Twilight. No.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it takes place after a Third World Conventional War, so after the war, not during the war, where a lot of you play from a native perspective, like you're trying to almost get home.
Okay.
Like there's been some nuclear fallout, and you're trying to get home, so you've got, and there's also like little missions you're trying to get back, so
So-
you've got a team of soldiers and you're running around doing
And to
that
give you an
kind
idea
shit.
of timeline and why it's called Twilight 2000, it's essentially the Cold War doesn't stay cold.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we get the third
Yeah.
major world conflict.
So it's set like in like 3 weeks.
No, this is set.
That's more
No,
of
no,
a
no,
joke
no.
for us right now.
But no, it's more set like late 80s, mid 90s.
It takes place. The war itself takes place in 2000. So 97 to 2000. That's when everything
Is the
takes place.
actual
Yeah.
war,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then so it's the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Now, what's really unique about Twilight 2000 and the way it plays is it is an RPG.
Yeah.
It is without a doubt an RPG. However, it is not played with the idea of you have a party and a game master.
Okay.
So you have players that are involved and they're all trying to get through the mission that's laid out, but then you have a game master that operates as like an arbiter.
Okay.
So it's an interesting format because it's semi versus semi cooperative. Like
That's what
Interesting.
made the game tough to play.
because you were playing both against and with the other people at the table.
Yeah.
So it may be because you were trying to get home.
Yeah.
So let's say Big Jim and myself are at the table. Now, for a couple of sessions, it may be that he and I cut an alliance because we're kind of going the same direction.
Yeah.
But now we're coming to the point of resources are getting fucking slim.
Yep.
Yeah. How do we do this?
How do we do this? And so all the declared action and stuff that's happening is being done by the players. And then you have an arbiter
Okay.
who's like literally a judge that is just
Cut and dry.
he's the final word so that you don't get
That's
into
what
the
made it a little different.
yeah.
The backstory is and that kind of stuff because it was like a lot of Red Storm Rising and some of the stuff that they took it from. I've read a lot of the books that they took some of the ideas of what was supposed to happen and how they thought a World War III was going to play out. So they use that stuff to then create this mythology that is it's accurate because of some of what the people who wrote that mythology weren't running it for the story, but they took it from the story.
Got it.
The movie Threads, and some of the backstory of how that movie, that was the British version of The Day After. If you've seen
No, I haven't seen that, no.
It's a nuclear war. It
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck out of people. A lot of that stuff and how the war is supposed to play out is they use it in Twilight
Right, okay,
2000.
okay.
There was a cool there was a nuclear, like on one of the little campaign books, there was a nuclear powered submarine that it was in Maine or something, and it was like tied up to a pier, and that was running the town. Like they hooked up fucking.
Okay.
It was just like their generator.
Yeah, it was like their generator and shit. So that's the game.
It
Though.
reminds me of like was that Rock movie? Though not with the Rock, Vin Diesel. Something AD or something like that.
Oh, Babylon AD.
Babylon AD.
Yeah,
kind of feels like that
it's
a little
very
bit.
odd.
Like after the fallout and everything,
Yeah.
and he's just like, I have to get to this place.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was fairly popular. Like you saw a lot of those books running around only because it was like a Cold War time period. Like that's why everybody wanted to play. There was no other game like there certainly wasn't any game like this.
Mm-hmm.
You had mutant games, you had but this stuff.
But this one has no like weirdness to it, no magic,
no. This is like came out in '84. It was, I think it was a year or two before Hunt for Red October, and then Red Storm Rising, which
got it.
Books.
Yeah.
So it was before that, but it was the whole Cold War thing.
Yeah.
So and it played into that because there was no games like that, no big games like that, where it was role playing. I mean, there's tactics games like that, kind of, but there wasn't anything like that. So it was a bigger one. I mean, people played it, but it was odd. It was definitely different.
Yeah.
It was like,
The whole like cooperative kind of not cooperative.
It was kind of weird.
You would have to really choose. It seems like you would have to really choose your play group well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a certain
Yeah.
level of player that really you get an overly competitive group together.
Yeah.
It doesn't play super well because you just end up breaking the narrative almost immediately.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turns into like just go play war games.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you want to do, then just go play war games.
Yeah.
But if you really want that thing, but you want that threat of the other people I'm at the table with are probably more dangerous than what I'm going to face in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds a certain thing to it.
It adds a nice wrinkle for sure.
Definitely
You
a
had
good
all
wrinkle.
these games, so you had a lot of this stuff. A lot of the stuff we talked about too was sort of how the times were.
Yeah.
Everybody's worried about getting fucking nuked. As we got into the 90s and the wall fell, you got vampires and the folks.
Yeah,
White
so
Wolf
then you end up
Publishing
with
and-
like the entire World of Darkness piece
Vampire
that came out, which was Vampire the
Masquerade.
Masquerade and Werewolf.
Those
and
people are fucking weird. The people who play that game.
Yeah,
are
you're
fucking
telling me
odd.
that
they're
was the
fucking
weird one.
strange, man.
Yeah.
The problem is that's actually a really good fucking system. Like the
The system
game
is very
system
good.
itself
It's well
is
done.
awesome.
Isn't Vampire the one with the cross arm thing?
That's the guy that thinks he's invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
But the game system is awesome, and so like all the World of Darkness titles are actually fucking great.
Uh-huh.
Like the system is great, the world is great, it's super immersive. They've really fleshed it out. The problem is the players get a little too deep.
Uh-huh. People dress up
So
to play it.
yeah, it gets a little too deep because World
I
of
think we should play
Darkness.
We should play it.
So weird.
We should do
World of Darkness is fun. The problem with World of Darkness is that it's not a combat system.
Yeah.
It's a role playing system.
Yeah, and that's the other thing
So-
too. You do a lot of just normal shit.
It's like I'm gonna go have dinner, like kind of thing.
Well, because it's a lot of it's very political. It's
Yeah.
very it's like a lot of economy.
That's
it's
why
a lot
people
of that
got
kind of
into
stuff.
it. Like you got the weirdness because you were doing semi-normal things or building like a business or like a sort of like
So
you've
it was,
seen all the movies where the vampires
so
own
it's
stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's completely
It
like
was very empire building.
leave, like
very.
somebody could just leave their shitty reality and just live in this.
it
one.
was the
Exactly
definition of
how it was.
escapism,
Yeah.
It was.
and people get a little too deep with it, and
Yeah.
that's when it gets a little like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah. Yeah.
you got to let this go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between dressing up as your barbarian dude and
Yeah.
being like, all right, and then being done. These people fucking believed it. And I got that from the get-go playing it. A buddy of mine played D&D with it, and he's like, how we play this game? So he had this whole other set of friends that we didn't know. And then we played it. Me and my buddy are like, this is fucking weird, dude. Like, I do this to blow off fucking steam. They're like into it. And it was very like hippie, but vampire-y. And after that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm not
For a
doing
lot
this.
of them, it is
Yeah.
everything else is an avenue just to get back to that game.
You get to go play.
And then you have people that game because it's a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys are like, no, everything that I do that's not the game is the break. And then I get back to the game, and it's kind of reversed.
And it was odd. And then because we weren't into it like they were, we never got invited back. Like
Yeah, you have to like
that's-
really commit.
we were
in.
like, this is weird. Like, I'm not going to go hang out with you again. They were so into it. Anyway, so if you're into it and that's what you play,
I would
friggin'
like
cool.
to.
And it's a great game.
The vampire thing. I would like to just like see it in real life, like just kind of as like a study.
Yeah.
You know, just like a fishbowl.
I'm sure
kind of,
somebody's
like-
streaming it.
Oh,
I'm sure somebody's
sure
streaming
somebody
a
is.
vampire game.
Yeah, just like
It's
fishbowl
interesting.
being like, what the fuck?
But it's a
am I
great
watching?
system. The game itself is really
White
fucking
Wolf
good.
Publishing,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're still around. I'm sure they're still.
Oh, they are. I've got the new edition of Vampire on the
They're
shelf.
still
Do you?
pumping that shit out.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the other guy that was big was the folks at Steve Jackson Games and GURPS.
And GURPS, which is the General Universal Role Playing System.
It is the General Universal Role Playing System from Steve Jackson Games.
Yeah. Damn,
This
I
is
am
the American Steve Jackson. There is a British Steve Jackson who works for Games Workshop.
Not the same guy.
Not the same guy.
What the
Fuck
odd
that
thing
guy.
is, they both worked on this a similar game together. And Steve Jackson America wrote a bunch of shit for Steve Jackson, the British guy, and people thought it was Steve Jackson, the British guy, and it got very confusing. However, yeah, they did know each other, and he's done some work for the British Steve Jackson. However, that's not. This is a complete role-playing system.
But
that was
GURPS
generic.
is the General Universal Role Playing System.
Yep.
So what it is it is a rule set
Okay.
with no world. So it
choose
is,
your world.
it
you
is-
want to play role play? It's like Pathfinder or whatever. If you want to play fantasy, we've got rules that you can do it for.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just the mechanics.
Mhm.
So this is I shipped you an engine, and now you have to build the car around it.
Really?
But it's not that.
So
it's not a bad thing because if you want to have
it's
a fantasy
way
world,
easier to pick up than you
Hey,
think.
I've got this great fantasy idea that how my world is going to work, but I kind of need.
Yeah, or let's say you
How
have
to
an
play
IP that you and a
Yeah.
couple of friends are huge fans of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So like I am a huge fan of The Wheel of Time.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The Wheel of Time, there was an attempt at making an RPG for The Wheel of Time. It did not stick. It didn't work.
Mhm.
So, but I'm a huge fan of that world. I know the world. I have a lot of friends that know that world really well. You
Yeah.
could take the GURPS system and you could use the structure of the GURPS rules and
To
just
make your
skin
own
it
world. Yeah.
in the Wheel of Time world. And you use the GURPS system to give you those rules.
Yeah. You don't have to figure out a balanced play system.
Nope. It gives you
It just
everything.
gives you that.
And then there's ones there's the GURPS like main book, and then there's GURPS Magic and GURPS Horror and GURPS. So like
Yeah.
they make all of these supplement books for like, okay, but these rules don't exist because I'm a huge fan of American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
that's a
want to
good
play
one,
that
yeah.
as an RPG.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we don't really have horror rules. And I was like, yes, you do. GURPS Horror. And it's just all the stuff for how you handle like fear and this, that, and the like all the stuff that
Right,
goes
right,
with
right.
that.
I mean, it was
It's all
pretty
in that book.
involved, how like his system.
That's pretty amazing that
Um,
he was able to do that.
Yeah,
Just
and it
kinda-
was like you rolled, so it was like instead of a rolling high, you rolled low. It was fairly involved. It was a fairly involved and well fleshed out.
Yeah, and it works extremely well. And apparently, after the OGL fallout, Steve
just
Jackson
happened.
at Games itself came out and said, like, hey, since the OGL is now not actually open, and GURPS has always been a rule system that you could skin with absolutely anything, what would you guys like to see in an updated GURPS set? So apparently, we're going to get a GURPS update, which is great because they haven't updated that thing in like 20 fucking years.
Really?
So it'd be really nice to see an update to that system.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
it's a cleaner system, and you could do anything you wanted with it.
Yeah,
That was the beauty.
and that's
of that
kinda
system.
I
nice.
think I
That's
have
cool.
3 of the GURPS books at home. I think I have GURP Horror, GURP Magic, and GURP, and just GURPS, like the
Yeah.
core book of GURPS.
I mean, I think they put out a thing that had literally every medieval weapon known to
Yeah,
man.
no,
And
there's
it-
like GURPS weapons,
weapons, and it was like
yeah.
everything. So you knew, you're like, hey, I saw this fucking thing in a movie.
Yeah,
I
what is
wanna
it?
have
Yeah.
this
You can go
crazy
find
looking Whatever.
And it's everything down to like a stick.
Yeah.
Like
It has, like,
if you
stats on
can
it.
fight with it, they've
Yeah.
got rules for
Yeah.
it. And what's
A
cool is then
rock.
if you're writing a world,
Medium rock.
then you can just go like you could go in and just you could cherry pick it and be like, this is the only weapons that exist in
Yeah.
my world, and it just gave you those rules for it, and you just plugged them into your world. And
That's really cool. I think
Yeah,
that's really
it's
neat.
super dope the way
Yeah.
it worked.
That's really, really neat.
Super super dope. So, and I know we didn't cover a lot of the like everybody wants to know, like, well, what system does it run on? Which means what kind of die do you roll
Yeah.
when you're determining stuff? These are all over the place.
Yeah.
All right. So some of them are D20 systems. Some of them are D6 systems.
Yeah.
Some of them are polyhedral systems. Some of them are
percentage-based
systems. Like,
depending on how
Mhm.
they're all over the place.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that if you were completely stuck on, but I need to roll this one die, play Pathfinder. You're not going to find a better D20 system than Pathfinder. You're just not.
Really?
The fact of the matter is that I'm gonna piss some people off.
Do it.
D20 systems are fucking easy.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. You can outmath them. You can
Okay.
you can outmath a D20 system. You can get to the point where you have so many fucking bonuses that you can't actually fucking fail.
There is, and I can't remember which one I was looking at, but you actually had a you had to know algebra to be to do some of the shit that they in the system. Like you divided your roles and had to do
Yeah.
all kind. Like, dude, no, why?
Just
what-
really math. Yeah,
why-
real
why
math.
am I
heavy.
doing this?
It's
Yeah.
overcomplicated, but
Yeah.
D20 systems are the reason that D20s got so popular is that they're so fucking simple.
Yeah, plug and play. Just
And
use them.
and you can overgame them. And so honestly, it's why D&D is so popular now, cuz 5th edition, like, you can't die. Everybody's damn near a god. Like,
Yeah.
like, you can fuck around in D&D, not follow the path, go through like one area with a few too many monsters, you level up a bunch if you're running an XP system,
Yeah.
and then you go back into the campaign, and you're so ungodly powerful at that point that there is no game left.
Yeah.
Like, you're just mowing through everything. And I'm sorry, but if I'm playing and there's no penalty,
Yeah, it doesn't make it fun anymore.
then it's not a game anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a...
It's like when you're playing a video game and you do like when you were first playing Doom and you played God mode and then you're like, this is cool, and then you play it for like an hour and you're just like, actually, it's not that much fun because
I can't die.
I can't die. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do.
Like, if there's no threat,
Conversely, if you're playing Call of Duty DMZ and you're getting fucking smoked literally every fucking time you spawn, sorry.
but
Got a little too personal there. Sorry.
if there's no threat, then there's no thrill of victory either.
Yeah.
And
Right.
D20 systems almost always they get super gamed. And that's the big reason that people like D&D. And you see all this stuff, and it's like, well, if you take 3 levels in this and 4 levels in this and 2 levels in this, and you take these feats, you can one-shot anything in the game. And it's like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. It like,
Yeah.
Well, there's always going to be those people. Like we deal with 40K all the time, like the meta work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are people who are always going to try to figure
they're
out.
gonna try
their
and
edge.
metagame it. And so my
Yeah.
favorite systems are actually D6 systems. So like it's everything you roll as a D6.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a system from Evil Hat Productions called Blades in the Dark. So Blades in the Dark is another heist one, but it's set in like Victorian times.
Nice.
And there's some magic and stuff in it. It's a very interesting system, very interesting world. But all of the power that runs in it is off of ghosts. So when you die, your ghost doesn't like leave, just hangs out, and they turn you into like batteries and shit. So it's kind of a cool
God
world,
damn it.
but
Steampunk with ghosts.
it is actually kind of steampunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a D6 system. So you're considered a subject matter expert on whatever you're doing. Like, you don't have to say like, I have this gear. They're like, yeah, you're a professional criminal. Like, we expect you just
Got
to
it.
have these things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but you only get to roll a D6, and it's degrees of success. And the only way that you fail is you roll a 1. A
You
6
just, like,
is you nailed it. A 4 or 5 is you did it, but maybe not the best. Like a
Yeah.
3 or 2, 3 is you accomplish it, but it was fucking rough. And
yeah.
somebody
It
probably
was
got
touch
hurt.
and go. Yeah.
And then a 1 is like, you fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
you did not do this right.
but the way it works is the better you get at something, the more D6s you get to roll. And you take the highest result of all the D6s you roll. But you can convince the GM to give you more dice. And it's like, well, I did this to prepare and this to prepare. Plus I have this skill and da-da-da-da-da. And you'd be like, okay, so you get your core die and you're getting 3 more. So now you're rolling 4 D6s and you take the highest result out of those 4 D6s, and that's the result you get.
And then knowing my ass, I'll get 4 1s.
Could happen.
And I'm just like, well, shit.
Yeah. So there is a amount of luck to it, but the biggest thing that I don't like about D&D is it's things like, cool, I'm going to climb this ladder. And it's like, okay, I'm going to need a climb check. And it's like, okay, so
Well, I can climb a ladder.
I'm a ninja at this point. You're telling me that I can't climb a goddamn ladder? Like, why am I
Yeah.
checking absolutely everything. And it's like some stuff I should just be able to do.
Yeah.
Or the
It's like,
DM.
oh, I'm gonna walk over to this door.
Conversely, I
Will
like
you
when the
just-
DM says, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go." You tell the DM, "I'm gonna go do this thing," and it's in combat, or it's like, "Okay, you're gonna do one check, but I'm gonna give you 3 different things that you either did well or fucked up with, and you're gonna go with it." Like, yeah, you fucking smoked the dude, but in the middle of it, your fucking weapon went flying off into the bushes, and now you gotta go get it, or you're gonna go punch the dude in the head with a rock because that's all you have because your goddamn fucking +6 axes went flying.
Yeah, and so and that's a lot of the stuff too. Like if you roll and get a result, and then it just like unlocks like almost like a cutscene with the GM's like, okay, you do this, and here's what happens, and you just get told like, you know, yeah, you threw your rope, but what you didn't realize is it hooked onto the leg of your buddy that was at the top of the cliff, and now he's fingernails into the fucking dirt trying to support your body weight while you're scaling this
you
thing.
just created the scene, and it's so much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
But
you
that's
created
on the DM
immersion
as much as anything.
but that's a lot of it's on the GM. So, but ultimately,
Speaking of you, there,
yeah, it's almost
Mr.
time.
Producer. No, never mind.
But
Silbers.
speaking of which, so 2 silvers.
Silbers.
We wanted to kind of take a walk down memory lane and show that there are systems out there with damn near as much history as D&D has.
Yeah.
D&D's just the most popular.
Like that riff sounds amazing.
It's
It sounds
incredible.
so fun.
And
then the Shadowrun was the second one you talked about.
Yeah.
Those are my heavy hitters.
Shadowrun's
Those are
your
like,
interest,
I'm in,
huh?
Yeah.
Shadow, like if you're a Blade Runner fan,
Shadowrun's right there.
it's super tight because you can do a lot of the stuff without even thinking about the magic.
Yeah.
And then the people who wield magic and some of the stuff, like you almost can't fuck with them because it's like it's so.
Well, and there's also an
Yeah.
RPG out there literally called Cyberpunk.
well, yeah, it could be a cyberpunk.
I mean,
yes, yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
called
Cyberpunk,
Cyberpunk,
yeah.
and now the edition they're on, I think, is called Cyberpunk Red. That's literally, I mean, it's Cyberpunk,
And there's so much
then
background.
and
There's so
we
many books
sell-
and novels.
Yeah.
And,
here we sell the Blade Runner RPG,
And there's
and
the
it's
Blade Runner,
literally
yeah.
just the Blade Runner RPG.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's cool.
But excuse me. There's so many systems out there, and the systems have been around a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that we just listed started in the 80s or
Yeah.
early part of 90s.
90, yeah.
So you're talking about games with 30, 40 years worth of heritage on them at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
I mean, yeah, D&D's old, but some of these others they're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, what you've got are games that I'm not saying D&D didn't do the Lord's work, because it did. It
Mm.
broke a lot of barriers. It did a lot of the heavy lifting. It figured a lot of it out.
If you
And
say
it-
role playing game, you're only thinking of one, and then unless you play a bunch of them,
Yeah.
you're only kind of thinking of one.
But it opened the door. And
Yeah.
and to be honest with you, I'm a huge D&D fan, and I have been for a very long time.
Just not a
but
Wizards of the
I'm
Coast.
not a Wizards of the Coast fan now.
Yeah, that
And the thing with that, and that's kind of why we're doing this, is it's easy for us just to shit on Wizards of the Coast and say, go play something else.
But when
Opening that
nobody
door to
knows
kind of
what
say,
it
like,
is,
hey,
yeah.
there's all this other cool shit. And to be honest with you, if you think tabletop gaming might be something that you're into, but maybe high fantasy isn't your jam,
Oh, there's so much.
There's
there is
so
something
much
out there that
more,
will
yeah.
tickle that. Like,
yeah,
that
the other
will
beauty is, like,
tickle
now
you. Like,
everything
it.
you want to do, Predator, Aliens, Terminator, all that shit's out there now.
We have one that we're bringing in called Everyday Heroes, and all of their campaign books are based on over-the-top fucking action movies.
Yeah.
So it's like Rambo and Pacific Rim, and
And
like
all this, like,
those are all the campaign books.
I like it.
So like, so even if you don't want to do the whole like, I don't want to come up with this world and whatever, play in a fucking world you like.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's all out there.
Yeah.
Play
like,
a world that you already figured out.
All of them. Like,
Yeah.
you want something hyper brutal? There's a Conan one that is fucking just.
Oh, is it?
Oh my god, it is rowdy. So
yeah, I mean, and it's fleshed out.
Yeah.
yep, and
So-
it's already done. Like, you don't have to do like, oh, I don't want to play elves and shit. Don't go be a vampire. Go
Yeah.
fucking go be a glitter boy.
Like
go.
fucking Call of Cthulhu. There's a fucking Call of Cthulhu.
There's a
game.
Call of the Cthulhu one. There's Pulp Cthulhu. Like,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of shit out there. So go find something that you actually like. You know, try something else on. I guarantee you, if you come to my store, if you go to any other fucking game store around the country, and you see like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this off the wall fucking RPG. Would anybody be willing to run a demo? Somebody in there is going to be a
Yeah.
fan of that
Yeah.
game and go like, I got you, like right
Yeah,
here.
let's
Let's
go.
sit down.
Sit down.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So
Just don't
yeah,
do vampire.
100%. So go do it. Anyways, I think we've wasted enough of these people's time
Yeah,
with this
man. Yeah, I
walk
think we
down
did.
memories lane.
That was fun.
So yeah,
it's good education.
And we
I'm
got a little
like,
education
Definitely
on
good
you.
education. You know, education is so important.
it
And
is.
being right is so important. And you know who else was
Oh,
right?
Fuck.
God
damn it.
Liam Russ was right.
That was smooth. I gotta
was
give him that
smooth.
one.
Yeah,
He
that was
snuck
so
that
good.
in
Like
there.
So good.
Second Pitch Beer Company on all the social medias, BattlePub Games on all the socials, BattlePub.com.
Send us drinks.
Send us drinks. You can send it to the store, to BattlePub.
Yep. Send it to us.
And we'll get it. In the meantime, roll some fucking dice, make some new friends, because we're all about the games, drinks, and hijinks
Jinx.
around here. So, boys,
Cheers.
Gentlemen,
here's to you.
Skål.
Hero.